Welcome to the world of white collar crime. Are you enjoying it? Isn't this more fun and dynamic than just talking and teaching about it all day? Something happened today that happens like 4 to 5 times a year. And even though I let them know that this could happen, when they get that email or phone call from a federal agent or U.S. attorney, they're still a little taken aback. Now, let's not forget, even if you plead guilty, cooperate, accept responsibility, do everything you're supposed to do, you have a prosecutor who is still cynical and they expect you to say things because you want a shorter sentence or engage in certain activities only to avoid prison. They still view you, can I say it? They view me as criminals, as liars, as thieves, as scum. Okay, so if you can embrace that, you can create effective messaging and also embrace the reality that some activities as a defendant are higher risk and higher reward. So while our team stresses creating assets and influencing stakeholders and really implementing a plan based off what we've learned from judges in a lot of cases over the years, it doesn't change that some of it's higher risk, man. And you got to embrace that risk because we think the reward is substantial, significant, but it doesn't change there could be some stress along the way. Now, there are a number of biases that impact people traversing the criminal justice system. I'm going to focus on one specific in this video, and I'll get back into what happened earlier today. One bias, for example, is the status quo, to just like stick with what you know and it's all good. The problem with the status quo is if you do nothing to really mitigate, you look kind of indifferent to a judge. It's like, well, like, what have you been like doing? You haven't really done anything. You haven't really helped or hurt yourself. It's like you're blah. You want to be blah, be fine. So status quo is very common. Some people become numb to the pain. They're used to it. They rationalize this is the way it's going to be, which leads into another bias, which is framing. How you frame the situation really dictates or determines how productive you're going to be. If you frame it as life is over, this is miserable, nothing I do is going to change the outcome, it's going to be hard to create and build and grow that network if you've convinced yourself it's totally hopeless. One more bias I'll cover before I get into the main one for this video is this idea of anchoring. I touched on it on a YouTube short last week, where you get an initial piece of information and you base everything you do moving forward off that initial piece of information, even though you get new information that is better than the original information that shows what you should do. For example, a number of people will hear from a lawyer, you're cooperating, you're paid all the money back, there's nothing more you need to do, and they base their decisions around what they initially heard, even though they may see the videos with judges, even though they may hear outcomes of people who did differently and got that outcome, they're still rooted in that initial opinion. What I want to focus on for this video, and the reason some people don't engage in what could be perceived is a higher risk, higher reward activity, is this idea of loss aversion. The idea that if I do something, like take some sort of action and put myself out there, it could like totally backfire. Okay, like it could really backfire. Therefore, I ain't going to do nothing and I'm just going to hang low, be quiet, because if I say anything or do anything, it could be more damaging. Now, certainly it could be damaging if you have the wrong message, but if you've introspected and you understand how you got here and you have a clear plan of what you're doing moving forward, and as Judge Bennett told us, if there's actual evidence of what you say you were doing, then you're stronger. But there's no doubt this loss aversion precludes some people from doing a number of things to mitigate their situation, which leads to this phone call I received earlier today from a professor at a really distinguished university who called to tell me that a government official had reached out to confirm that someone in our community actually spoke to her class and wanted like evidence of the event, even though she had written a really terrific letter on his behalf that said he accepted responsibility, he conveyed an excellent message to my students. It kind of took her aback, which is why I said this is real white collar crime. You might view the person in our community differently as a husband and as a father and someone who came to contribute to your class to share lessons learned. The government views him as a thief and a liar. They think he doctored that letter. They think he created that letter. They think he forged your name on university letterhead and sent it. It happens 4 to 5 times a year. And she's like, well, why would somebody do that? Who would fake a letter? And I said, they look at us as criminals. But it is higher risk, higher reward, because it then puts all of your actions, it's out there for the world to dissect. It's open for The government, well, what did you say? Is it recorded? What was the appropriate message? Do you have notes from the call? And my thoughts are, if you have a good message and if you're honest and authentic, I would want them. I hope it's recorded. I want them to watch it. I hope there are notes. I hope they have an opportunity to come across the message that was beautifully conveyed. I blame no one but myself for my plight in life. I knew better. I made bad decisions. And I'm here today with hopes that you future business leaders will understand the consequences of illegal or unethical conduct, the damage in creating victims, the pain and shame I brought to my family that I'm suffering, and I've yet to even be sentenced, but I feel like I'm in prison 24 hours a day. And I want you to understand how every decision you make will influence the rest of your life. Give thought, the decision I make 10 minutes, 10 years, 100 years, your legacy, how will it influence you? That's the message. I know because people in our community who work with our team and plead guilty, I work with them because that's how I sustained myself when I came home from prison for many, many years. That's how I earned my living, traveling the country, lecturing to business schools from Stanford to USC and everywhere, all across the country with the appropriate message. So as I wrap up this video, if loss aversion is a bias that you face, I understand it. There's higher risk, higher reward in creating and sharing it. There is risk if you create a message and you cannot back it up. There is risk if you say you are going to hold yourself accountable, do a job that might be beneath your skill set for humility, but also to begin to earn a livable wage and not do it. You will look inconsistent like a fool and a fraud and a thief and a criminal, which is how they view you. If you say you are going to get a job that is beneath your skill set and you don't, you are going to get filleted. If you say that you are going to, oh, there are so many things that I could, which is why it's easier for some of you to say, Justin, that sounds really great. That makes sense. I watched the interview with Judge Boo and Judge Bennett. It really makes so much sense. But yeah, I'm just not going to do that. I understand it. There's risk there because sometimes people say they want something and they'll write it and they don't actually follow through. And if you're unwilling to follow through and do the work and build and document it over a sustained period of time, you are going to, well, you're exactly what they think we are. Full of happy talk, saying exactly what they want to hear with no action plan. I admire the person in our community. I have dozens of people a year speak with me at universities, from USC, my alma mater. They've done it at Stanford, everywhere. Not everywhere, a lot of places. Requires courage to take tough questions from students. It takes courage to share your greatest failure in life. It takes courage to talk about things you could have done differently. And to the cynics out there who say, well, are they doing this because they want a shorter sentence? Of course. Of course, this is a mitigation strategy. Nothing wrong in life by creating a win-win. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. There is value in deterring students, helping them understand the consequences. But so many of you watching this video or who will watch it in the future, I'll have less hair by then. Why are you going to get sentenced to prison? Deterrence. The judge is going to say, I don't think you're ever going to return to this courtroom. And I know you've made amends. I know you paid money back and cooperated, but I need you to deter a doctor in Pittsburgh based on the sentence I'm going to give you today. What if you could begin deterring right now? It's higher risk. It's higher reward. But if done well, with the appropriate messaging, the payoff is so significant, not just through sentencing, but you're beginning to rebrand and recalibrate and talk about something new, how you're contributing. You are no longer the problem. They view people like me, an educated dude from USC with privilege, as part of the problem. If you are anything like me, you are part of the problem. By giving back and contributing, whether it's to students, whether it's through our nonprofit, Prison Professors Charitable Corporation, where we influence 1 million people. My partner, Michael Santos, is going to Dubai next week. Big things are coming. If you can demonstrate at scale that you are impacting people, guess what? You're a part of the solution. But it's higher risk, higher reward. I'm aware of that. That's all I got to say. Dodger game 4 tonight. Go Blue. Thank you for watching.